Hey, what's going on, positive people? It's B Plus, and I want to thank you for checking out this edition of Sports and Spirituality. I know you're probably wondering, what does the all-time NBA GOAT have to do with the common phrase that's used throughout the Old Testament and New Testament for that matter? And that phrase is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Make sure you guys stick around to the very end of this video, and I'm sure whether you like sports or not, you're going to get something from this, and you're going to learn how to maybe reach your full potential or reach a better potential in your spiritual walk with Christ. So you guys stick around and let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into today's sports and spirituality. I'm really excited about this just because I feel like sports is a great metaphor for life. You can find a whole lot of life lessons in sports. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into today's sports and spirituality. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tee up two athletes for you. And the first one, let's just call this athlete A. So athlete A, just some quick facts about them. I see you have a silhouette here of this athlete. So he is a McDonald's All-American. He participated in the McDonald's All-American Slam Dunk contest. Actually, he was drafted directly out of high school. He was drafted to an Eastern Conference team, and he was drafted to his hometown team, about a 6'9" forward. Now, that's the first athlete. Let's put a pin on that first athlete, and now let's move over to our second athlete. So this is athlete B. Athlete B, he played basketball at the University of North Carolina. He played under Dean Smith. He was also drafted to an Eastern Conference team, drafted 3rd overall, and he was a 6'6" guard. And he made a whole lot of noise in the 90s. So now that I have both of these athletes kind of placed out for you, let's go ahead and go back to athlete A. You're probably thinking, well, if you're a basketball fan, you probably already know who this is. And if you're like maybe a casual fan, you may think you know who this athlete is, but let's go ahead and reveal who this athlete is. This is none other than Josh Smith of the Atlanta Hawks, and he also bounced around the league to the Pistons, the Clippers, the Rockets, might even be a few others in there. So that was athlete A. You probably thought that I was referencing LeBron James. And let's hop over to our next athlete. So this athlete, you might think that this was Michael Jordan. It is not Michael Jordan. This is actually Jerry Stackhouse. So what I'm doing here is just kind of showing how you have athletes that come around from year to year, from time to time, that kind of fit the bill of another athlete, and they oftentimes draw some comparisons. So let's move from sports and let's get into the spirituality piece. So let's talk a little bit of Bible. As I said in the intro, there's a very common phrase that's used throughout the Old Testament as well as the New Testament, and that common phrase is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's used, in fact, over 10 times from what I counted. You may end up counting more, but it's used a whole lot in the beginning of Exodus. And it's so obviously a lot through Exodus chapter 3 and chapter 4, also used in Deuteronomy. And also I have it here listed in red. These are times where Jesus referenced this iconic common phrase of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it really just highlights the covenant line of just the patriarchy that God chose to set apart his people, really. So and just really just illustrates his promise and the promise and the covenant that he made with his people. So I have highlighted here 4 promises. There's probably more, but the 4 major promises that God gave Abraham was land, numerous descendants, and not only would he have numerous descendants, but he would bless those numerous descendants, and they would be a blessing for all the nations. So this is really iconic. It's like almost like the Hall of Fame of, it's like the legends of the children of Israel. So you're probably wondering, what does this common phrase has to do with the GOATs of the NBA? And I'm not going to get into who is better, LeBron or Mike. You have to maybe catch me on another day. I have my thoughts about that, definitely, for sure. I want to highlight the last person in this covenant line that's listed, Jacob. Jacob had a twin brother, and he went by the name of Esau, and he was the firstborn. So he was the one that had the birthright. He had the birthright. So I want to move over. I know we're talking basketball, but this was like a huge fumble or you can call it a turnover of basketball. Huge turnover. So obviously him being the firstborn, he had the birthright. But let's talk about this 3 things before I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because I'm looking at my notes here as I'm talking. But I feel like he fumbled in 3 ways. He probably fumbled in more ways, but the main 3, he did not cherish his birthright, and his priorities were completely all out of whack. And I'll hold the 3rd one to the end. So the birthright, obviously, if you are a Bible scholar, if you grew up in Sunday school like me, if you went to vacation Bible school and all that good stuff, you probably know this story. Basically, long story short, Jacob cooked some really good soup. Esau was very hungry. He traded his birthright for soup. And then later on down the line, his mother, or their mother, she helped Jacob swindle the father, and he blessed Jacob instead of Esau. So, and I had written down here, I had written down what that story is, but I have moved that paper. So go read your Bible. You'll find it all in there. So those were 2 really, really big mistakes. And also another priority that that I came across that Esau had screwed up. He actually married 2 Hittite women, and that was a no-no. That was something that God didn't want. He didn't want them. They had different gods. They had different beliefs. He didn't want them commingling with those people. And once again, his priorities were out of whack. But one thing, while I was kind of studying and reading about this, I came across this in Hebrews chapter 12, verses 16 through 17. And I'll just read it. And make sure that there isn't any immoral, irreverent person like Esau who sold his birthright in exchange for a single meal. When he wanted to inherit the blessing, he was rejected, even though he sought with tears because he didn't find any opportunity for repentance. And the reason why this is the 3rd fumble, in my opinion, just because he realized his mistake too late. And it says that he had tears in his eyes and he kind of wanted a do-over. He wanted another chance at not fumbling this great opportunity that was laid right at his feet. And it didn't come. He didn't have a second chance in that sense. So let's move on. And again, I keep asking the question, like, what does this have to do with the GOAT? I'll just say GOATs for the sake of this conversation, Michael Jordan and LeBron James. So let's keep moving here. And I call this part the dagger. This is the main point of sports and spirituality. What if that common phrase was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Esau? Because it should have been the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. But Esau, like I just said in the former slide, he really kind of fumbled things. He really did not manage himself well. And the one thing that I want to bring out about this analogy that I'm making here is Jacob and Esau had the same access. They had the same God. They had the same parents. They had the same opportunity to realize their potential. And what was rightfully Esau's, he really just fumbled it away, and there was really no excuse for him to fumble that away. So what does that have to do with these athletes that I'm talking about? I'm looking at LeBron James, and I'm looking at somebody who is maybe more athletic than LeBron James and Josh Smith. I'm looking at somebody like Jerry Stackhouse, who had the same coaching in college, had a great opportunity to become a great player in NBA. And I don't want to dunk on, or I don't want to minimize either one of these athletes, because I mean, Jerry Stackhouse is on his way. I think he needs to have a head coaching job. I'm not sure where Josh Smith is, but at the same time, like, they had the same access that any other NBA player had. They had access to trainers, world-class trainers, world-class facilities. They have film. They have a lot of money so they can take care of their bodies. They have people in their front office that are letting them know where the NBA is trending as far as like the style of play and things like that. And I'm thinking about in Josh Smith's case, he didn't realize that the league was moving to the 3-ball, and he didn't figure that out until too late. And then I remember he was just hoisting up brick after brick. Again, no shots at Josh Smith, because one thing that I do want to make a quick caveat, because it does kind of feel like I'm making fun of Josh Smith or Jerry Stackhouse, but I'm really not, because like I stated earlier, I played college ball. I played against a handful of players in the NBA. I played in semi-pro leagues. I've played a tiny bit of ball overseas, so I know that it's a very, very hard job. It's not as easy as what these players make it seem, but at the same time, if you want to become one of the greats, just like in this case, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that's like the Hall of Fame. Like those are the fathers of the faith. If you want to be the GOATs like LeBron and Mike, you have to put in that work, because we have the same access in their case, they have the same access that LeBron and Mike had. In our case, in our walk with God, we have the same access as our favorite pastors, our favorite singers, our favorite Christian person that we look up to. We have the same access, but are we willing to do what it takes to become just the small things, just being faithful in prayer, faithful in reading your word, faithful in loving one another? I see it a whole lot of people have all types of degrees in theology, and they can take this commentary and they can just read it front and back, but at the same time they can't do the basic thing of just being empathetic to their neighbor. So what I want to do with this sports and spirituality basically is just challenge us to not be, again, I'm not throwing shots at these athletes, but to not be Jerry Stackhouse. Even though Jerry Stackhouse is a brilliant mind, like I just said, he should be a head coach. I hope so really soon. That we don't squander our talents, that we don't look up one day like the writer says in Hebrews and say, like, don't be like this immoral, irreverent person Esau. And I don't want that for us. I want us, and I want it for myself. I'm really speaking to myself more than anything with this edition of sports and spirituality, just to really kind of lock in and understand the access that I do have, so that I can grow and reach my full potential. Because your potential is just as real as your reality. You just have to get out there, get the scout report, rip it apart, figure out the game plan, and go execute. And we do all that by the power of the Holy Spirit. So I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Sports and Spirituality. I hope to do a whole lot more of these. I hope you guys enjoyed it once again. And until next time, peace in, confusion out, and be positive.
I'm a monster on the microphone, a menace to the monsters. Every time I get that microphone, I menace to the monsters. Much like my mother's mother, I don't mingle in no mess. I make music for the master, mute that demon in your chest. I've been pushing since my mama pushed me.